What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So before I jump into the next video, I just wanted to take some time out to say thank you very much for all of your support. We are in the month of July. The Video Game Fight School community is vibing with Gotham Knights, Hogwarts Legacy, and Suicide Squad whenever we'll get more information. So this is just my own extension of gratitude to all of what you guys have been doing to, for, and with the channel. And so let us dive in. Today we have a few things that I wanted to bring to the forefront of our community, and that is some details that we are yet to receive. I'm putting it out there as kind of a question type deal where it will be nice for us to know when the developers are going to have these details up and going. Now, we know that there's a Gamescom conference that's going to be coming in August. I think this is probably where we're going to be getting a little bit more of these details. But before we even continue talking, what are these details that you are talking about, Mr. VGFightSchool guy? Well, the biggest detail of all of them to me is the PC specs on Steam and even on the Epic Games platform. So system requirements is something that many PC players usually look at in order for them to be able to know if they're able to play a video game when it releases on PC. With Gotham Knights, we do not know what the system requirements are, and it's going to be very difficult for anybody to throw out any kind of, system requirements. What's even much more challenging too is if you go back and look through Warner Brothers Games Montreal's library in their development side, they haven't necessarily published a whole bunch of games. So this is where I think it's going to be slightly challenging for you to be able to come up with anything, because if you click on their own whatever, you're going to see other Warner Brothers games, and a lot of these other games are developed by studios that are strongly different from one another in their production style, the kind of games that they actually are making. So you can't really take this as 100% face value. There are some intelligible things, though, that you can do to kind of put yourself in a position where it's a little bit more, I would say, how do I put it? It's a little bit more competitive in a sense, that you can make your PC, seem like, okay, it's ready to go. But other than that, I don't think there really is much that you can do other than just say, hope my PC plays it, and, based on other developers and based on other ways things like these have been handled, I'm probably going to be in a good spot. So when I mean other developers and other, games, there's a general API segment in terms of how they develop these games for PC, where they basically just use these APIs to kind of scale them depending on your hardware, because everybody's PC is built so differently. It's not like a console where things are, in a sense, streamlined to the same hardware, same specifications. PC, it's all over the place. So those are some of the details that are still here that we're looking forward to. Now, next thing that's on my list in terms of some of the questions that we still have that the developers are yet to answer will also be the compatibility with the Steam Deck. Now, I know these are two different platforms almost in a sense. And yes, the Steam Deck is supposed to be running your Steam games and even potentially run games that are not Steam games. We'll see how that pans out. But the Steam Deck is something that a lot of people have been looking forward to. Some people have ordered theirs. Some people are happy to receive theirs. I've been on a wait list since the very first day that they said this thing was going to be coming to everybody's hands. I haven't seen a Steam Deck. I haven't gotten an email from Valve or anything. But, your boys over here kind of like keeping fingers crossed and waiting to see how this is actually going to affect me, because one thing about the Steam Deck is it allows for portability, and so far so good. Some of my favorite games are already available on the Steam Deck. If you go into, say, the Steam Deck platform, you can choose whichever one you want. If you noticed the way that they actually have it, it's actually been getting a lot of interest from around the gaming community, especially those that play on PC. And there's already Elden Ring on it. So to me, it appears that From Software is probably going to be going on from henceforth supporting the game. And I think a game like Gotham Knights is more than likely going to also be able to receive support from this Steam Deck if the developers are able to do it. This is just saying if the devs want to do it. But even if you might say there's a network aspect to it in terms of two-player co-op, there's also a network aspect to Elden Ring. So if the developers at From Software could pull it off, I see no reason why Warner Brothers Games Montreal are not able to, unless they don't have, say, the technical expertise right now to, optimize the game for the platform, and it's more than likely going to be a future update or maybe something that they don't prioritize. I'm hoping that they prioritize it. It will really make a whole lot of sense for people like us that, want to take our games around with us on PC and want to be able to play wherever we are. But some people may also be saying, does this not mean that we may or may not get something with the Nintendo Switch? Well, the question still lingers because there hasn't been any announcement with the Switch version of this particular game. It's one of those things where if you think about it, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy were able to do a Switch version, but it wasn't necessarily a native Switch version. It was one that was running on an external server, so you have to connect to the internet to play it. In fact, if you have a Nintendo Switch or one of the new Nintendo Switches, you can actually go on your Nintendo Switch and play a demo of it and see how it runs. I thought it ran decently well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily saying that there has to be a Switch version for Gotham Knights, but I'm saying this could also be a contingency that could be used if, say, the native traditional Steam Deck could not run the game by itself. So the developers could actually do a server type thing to make the game available for that kind of a platform, and then people can actually access the game over the web. But so far so good. These are some of the things that I feel the developers probably need to put out a little bit more information surrounding the game and kind of get us aware as to where we stand, as to where we are. Because, if you kind of think about it, the excitement right now for this game is somewhere on the mid-level. I'm not going to sit here and try to oversell something that's not necessarily there. Even Suicide Squad is in its own really interesting place when it comes down to the excitement surrounding these Warner Brothers titles. And I think I know the exact reason why. I think they spent so much time in the lab. Number one, if you think about it, Rocksteady's last game was Arkham Knight in 2015. We're now at 7 years when in reality, their development windows were much shorter. They released Arkham City in 2011, and then about 4 years later, you had Batman Arkham Knight already in the works. But they decided that they didn't want to go with the Arkham series anymore, or with Batman anymore. And so I think it took them a while for them to get the ground going in terms of getting their new game approved, or at least getting their new game concept fleshed out. And it felt like, in my opinion, they were probably starting from scratch, hence the extra 2 years. They're quite an efficient studio if you were to ask me. And then you look at Warner Brothers Games Montreal, who their only game was a game that was a filler for Rocksteady to deliver the Arkham Knight game. They're also in that really interesting place as well. So spending all those years in the lab has really, built a lot of excitement, and then releasing games that were not necessarily continuations of where they had stopped, in a sense, kind of dulled the potential excitement that could have been there in terms of what games they released. I'm not saying that Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights are not necessarily going to be good games. What I'm actually saying is all that time spent to bring out very radically newer types of IPs have not necessarily yielded what the potential could be. Now, if, say, they were going with, say, what Monolith Studios was doing, like bringing a brand new superhero in a whole new different universe that wasn't necessarily related to, say, what they had done before, it would have worked very much for them. And you might say Gotham Knights is not an Arkham game, but if you remember the way Gotham Knights was marketed, in the very beginning, they marketed it almost like a continuation of Batman, Arkham, in a sense. This is something where they're saying, oh, there was an explosion and it was kind of suggested or, suspected that Bruce Wayne had died. I thought that bait and switch was very, very somewhat, risky. You're trying to bait people into a new game in a different universe, but you're using familiarity in a sense. So it didn't necessarily vibe well. But there are still questions, though, whether or not Bruce Wayne is alive in this game, and I think it's up to us to explore. And so coming down that version or, discussion in terms of the version of this game, I think we're yet to find out. If the developers truly did kill Batman, it would be a bold statement, but would like to see how exactly they want to put this game forward. So I believe that if they want to really get this game and get some more excitement out there, they really need to keep providing as much detail as they possibly can and be early about it, not just necessarily putting it out there when, they think they need to, but putting out there in a good amount of time. But so far, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. All of this is really interesting. Let's continue the conversation around Gotham Knights. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I really do appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully, we'll talk in another video. Peace out.